Thank you for joining the marketing show. My name is Matthew Kilmurry, founder and CEO of apartmentgeofencing.com and hotelgeofencing.com, and I'm your host. We've got an excellent show today discussing the hot topics of brand and customer experience within the multifamily industry. I'm excited to dig in. Joining us today is Anne Baum. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Matthew. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm so glad you joined. Before we get started, let me take a moment to introduce our guest today. Anne is the marketing director at Towne Properties, an integrated real estate company operating in 4 states, managing over 15,000 apartment units and 115,000 units managed total. Her role at Towne is overseeing the marketing department, which is responsible for supporting 4 business channels and marketing over 100 apartment communities. Anne loves collaboration, data, public speaking, innovation, autonomy, ChatGPT, of course, and learning. Prior to joining Towne, Anne worked in various industries, leading marketing departments for multi-location businesses. So glad to have you on board today.
Yeah, thank you. We are talking about an exciting topic, so I can't wait.
Well, we were talking beforehand, and you were mentioning how this is something that you guys are moving into,
Yes.
and that you're kind of most excited talking about the journey so far, some of your observations, and especially those who are looking to pivot in this direction, what they should be thinking of. And so, I guess before we dive into into some of the specifics, I would love to know why you're focused, on brand and customer experience, and why you think it's so important for multifamily.
Yeah, absolutely. So really, I'm focused on brand and customer experience because I was inspired by a keynote at AIM 2024 by Shruti Buckley, and her keynote was called "The Investment Case for Branding and Customer Experience." And in her presentation, she's from Hampton by Hilton, so hospitality, a wonderful, we're always looking toward hospitality. And in her presentation, she explained how Hampton has really been able to take the brand and customer experience portion of their business and tie it to financial metrics, hence the investment case for branding and customer experience. And that really stuck out to me because first, I'm really data driven, and second, I've always known brand was important, but I haven't really always known how to quantify it or to explain, you know, ultimately multifamily is kind of a transactional business. And so to be able to tie anything back to financials or data is really important. And so honestly, that's really why I started this journey, because after I heard Shruti talk, I knew that it was possible. I knew that we could put branding and customer experience in place and be able to measure it.
I was there for that talk, and it was an amazing talk because while branding can be esoteric in nature,
Mhm.
and there's a lot of attributes that go into that. She talked about how that particular brand under the suite of brands
Yep.
um, performs the best, has some of the highest net operating income out of all the different brands, and it's
Yes.
because of their the such the big focus on it. And then she if I remember correctly, she talked about one individual hotel that was doing the best of all the hotels, and they went and interviewed the manager and the staff there, and just to get like a sense of like the how the brand promise was being
Yes.
brought to life by the people at the location, and how it kind of all brought it together for her. That was a great presentation.
Yeah, no, I'm obsessed with her. If you've heard me talk before, you've heard me talk about Shruti. Hi, Shruti. No, I'm just kidding. And I actually got to then sit, she had a roundtable the next morning, and there were maybe, I don't, 15 or so of us in there. I mean, it was like a master class. It was so inspiring. And to your point, my mom and my aunt and I actually stayed at a Hampton in Kentucky during the summer. We went to the world's longest yard sale, and we went down south to start in Kentucky. We stayed at a Hampton, and we were speaking to the people that work there, and one woman had worked there for like 20 years, and like she knew all of her regular customers because they had people that would come in for work. And I mean, it literally, the staff at this particular Hampton was it absolutely a living example of what Shruti shared with us at AIM. So
Yeah.
that just inspired me even more.
Yeah, I bet it did. Um, and so that was this year, right? Earlier this year,
Yeah, that
right?
was this year.
So not much time has passed, but what steps have you been able to take to enhance Town Properties brand experience just in the last 6 months?
Sure. So, really, like I said, we've just started this journey. So, what I've been able to do so far is really very preliminary. And so, after that presentation, I basically wanted to start a project, a brand and customer experience project. And so, I outlined the steps that we would need to be able to take, basically, my vision for establishing and implementing ugh, clear brand and customer experience guidelines. And I was able to get buy-in from our CEO and EVP, which is always exciting. I then created a brand package that outlines who we are as a property management company, what experience we want to deliver, the touch points that are encompassed within that brand and customer experience. This was something that was really important too, how the property management brand and the property brand were going to work together. Because we do have a strong Town Properties is a great company. We have a really strong brand. We are very good at property management. And so we wanted that brand to live within our communities, but also recognize that each of our communities is very unique. And so what elements of the Town Properties brand and the individual property brand do you put together and how do you balance the two? And so I put together a preliminary outline of that. The property management company, at least in our case, what we're thinking it's going to come down to is really our mission, vision, and values, visual representation of the Town Properties brand at the properties, making sure that what occurs at each customer journey stage and touch point is consistent, operational procedures obviously being consistent across all of our properties, and then using the same success metrics across each property. And then the individual property is really going to come down to audiences and personas, kind of the brand purpose of that particular property, marketing collateral, of course, amenities and events, and then like touch point details. So a very small example of that being, say we decide that at every property, when someone comes in for a tour, we want to offer them water. Well, the brand of water might differ at each property based on that audience and persona. However, the act of always offering water is always going to exist because that is a customer experience expectation on the Town Properties level.
I love that you got executive buy-in because I think a lot of people mistakenly think of brand as just logo, brand colors, or brand guideline, maybe some inspirational statements, but it is the experience that people have with the brand. And so in order to have that, it has to be operationalized across the teams. And that means operations has to be involved, training and development. I mean, it is a company-wide buy-in.
It's
Um,
full-fledged, yes.
yep.
And I mean, we're very fortunate because we have strong operations already. So like a lot of these elements exist. Um, it was just kind of putting it together in a different way. We are going
Mhm.
to test this at one property. So again, this is very, very, very new. And our next step is really to sit down with that property team and say, okay, what is your brand? Like, let's go through the steps of figuring out who your customers are and what will make them happy. So
Yeah.
again, it's that buy-in now at the property level, but I'm looking forward to that next stage.
And I like how you're thinking about it between the management company, like the intersection of the brand with the management company, and then also the individual community, which is unique and it's going to have its own unique customer, uh, potential customer, the unique neighborhood, kind of all that stuff, and how do they interact with each other?
Yep.
And that's going to be so important, I think, because one of the things that we work with a lot of hotels. We work with Choice and Marriott and a lot of different brands. And some of the things I hear from ownership groups is that they get frustrated because it's moved too far in one direction. So
Hmm.
there might be this ownership group with like a Courtyard by Marriott, and there's no room in there for the hotel individual location brand to have any way to differentiate themselves because they know their staff, they know their neighborhood, they know the little things that they do and what they're proud of. And this is their building that they spent a lot of money to build
Yeah.
and develop and everything, and they want to showcase it in a little bit of a different way. But the brands, I think, because there's over time there's so many, they've just really locked them down so that there's no deviation and anything off brand. But I think it's gone a little bit too far because there's so much frustration within the ownership groups. So here in multifamily, where right now it's almost all property branding and there's
Yep.
some management companies doing it. My hope really is that we find this like middle ground, and who knows, maybe in 5, 10 years from now, the hospitality industry will look over and say, wow, multifamily is doing this better.
Ooh.
They'll look
I
up to
like
us.
it. I like that. Hey, everything's cyclical, right? Like that
Yep.
could totally happen. Uh,
So, getting back to that, like the reason to invest in branding, how are you determining what those KPIs for you are going to reflect the success of the brand and customer experience initiatives that you're putting together right now?
Sure. So I have a preliminary, framework right now of what that measurement really is going to look like. And ultimately, it came down to looking at the stages in the customer journey. So basically, every stage from awareness to renewal, and then picking out kind of some key performance indicators that we could measure at each touch point to so putting together KPIs and then also creating benchmarks to determine if, that KPI was performing or not. But basically that would be an indicator to us that, at the awareness stage, if this KPI is performing above or below benchmark, that would be an indication to us that maybe we weren't implementing or following through on our brand and customer experience promises properly. So it ends up being this kind of color-coded funnel that will be able to pick out if things are working or not. So I'm excited about that. We also have a couple overall KPIs too, that relate to the performance of a property as a whole, as well as looking at individual touch points.
Yeah, I love that. One of the things that I've always thought is that once you've been able to establish a brand, if people start bidding on your brand name in like
Hmm.
paid search, it's
Yeah.
like you hate to see it, but you're like, oh, like it's almost like a validation that you've like built something there, you know?
That we yes, like we are considered a competitor. The age-old question of if it's okay to bid on people's brand terms or not. Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
I
and
think
they
I've
do,
made a couple handouts in my day on why it is or is not a good idea.
right. Yep. Um, so then, all right, so you've got some KPIs in place, and so how are you going to maintain that consistent brand experience while also still, personalizing the customer interaction?
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes back to, fingers crossed, it goes back to what we talked about before is having a clear distinction between the property management brand and the individual property brand, really making sure that, when it's established that we have buy-in at the property level, and then also utilizing those KPIs to determine whether or not the customer experience and the brand promises are being fulfilled or not. So, um, like I said, we haven't implemented this yet. We have one property that's slated to be a test subject for us. So some of this might change a little bit, but that's how I'm visualizing being able to keep that balance.
Yeah, I love the idea of continuing to keep in mind how to personalize the customer interactions because it is going to vary based on the market that you're in.
Yeah.
And it's going to be the on-site teams, the regional marketing managers and the on-site teams, even like local developers who really know the area to really know what those personalized interactions are going to
Hmm.
resonate with that audience there. Um, then also using some data to kind of understand where people are in the prospect journey and kind of surprise and delight them along the way with
Yep.
different ways to personalize just from like a digital marketing perspective, like having different messages along the journey
Yep.
so that you can take the value proposition of the brand and the property and articulate it in different ways to connect
Yes.
with them at that point in the journey, right? Like, in the very beginning, they're just looking to be wow. They're dreaming right now. They're dreaming
Yes.
about moving to a new apartment. They want the hero shot. They want the, kind of all of that. But when they start to, whittle down their choices, little things become more important, like, the security
Yes.
systems there. Do they have two-bedroom units? Like, and kind of personalizing those along the way.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. And part of this process that I didn't talk about was putting together a gigantic spreadsheet of each of
Yes.
the customer journey stages, how prospects might feel, or residents, if at that point they're a resident, how they might feel at each stage. Again, what the touch points are, what our goal would be for them to accomplish at each stage. And you're exactly right that there are feelings that become involved that we really have to be cognizant of, and certain expectations. So it's going to be a long, exciting journey. I can't wait. Like I said, thank you for having me on. I can't wait to continue to be able to talk about this as we continue our journey internally. But
Yeah, we'll definitely touch base with you again in 6 months to a year and see how it's
yes,
going. And really, just as a takeaway for the audience, I think that's a great place to start. Like, take all of that one spreadsheet, have it all there, map out your customer journey so it's in one place where you can look at it between yourself and the other executives at the company and get everybody kind of on board with that. So, Anne, thank you so much for being a guest today. Appreciate it very much.
yeah, thank you, Matthew. I really appreciate it. And if anyone ever wants to connect with me to ask questions or anything, I'm always down to talk to other multifamily marketers. So I appreciate it. And until next time, Matthew, have a
Yeah.
wonderful day.
Yeah, you too. Thank you so much. And thank you to all of you on LinkedIn for joining us today. I hope you join me again here every Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Until then, love the journey.